Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Footy Talks La Liga. Carlos Footy, Mike DeLuca with you this evening as we get set for, a jam-packed hour or so here, Mike. Plenty going on in La Liga, and we have two fantastic sets of guests tonight. We have Rahul Kalvapalle and Mike Miller joining us first off to talk about Real Madrid and Barcelona, respectively. We'll get into their bios in a second. And then exciting as well, we'll be joined by Atletico Ottawa player Ben Fisk, one of the standout players in the Canadian Premier League last year, and a guy that has some experience as well in Spain with Corucho and Deportivo de La Coruña's B teams. So a couple of really exciting guests, and it's been a pretty entertaining last couple of weeks in La Liga. Lots to cover.
Yeah, it's been awfully exciting, Carlos. I think last time we had spoken, everything kind of happened in a flurry. We were, I think, 2 weeks or 2 or 3 weeks into the return to La Liga, but it resembled something to the effect of 5 game weeks. So it's been fun. I think you can start to slowly see teams starting to come back into their groove. And unfortunately, I think you're also starting to see the teams who haven't managed the return to play so well. I know you were speaking the goodbyes before we got in the call today when you and I were chatting about, go on, I'll let you do it. You're saying that early goodbyes too?
Well, early goodbyes to Espanyol, and sad, but at the same time, when you win 5 matches in 34, you probably don't deserve to be in La Liga anymore. So a brief moment to appreciate Espanyol, and the fact is we're going to miss the Barcelona derby moving forward. Hopefully they bounce back, but we all know how difficult the Segunda División in Spain is, and they're pretty much done, Mike. 11 points back with just 12 left on the board. Leganés and Mallorca in slightly more manageable situations, but both likely still doomed. And really, for me, that's a big blow. It's a big blow. Espanyol is a club that you're used to seeing in Spain's top tier. You know, couple of forays into Europe, couple of cup runs, and of course, they're always good for a little scare. I think they've drawn 2 or 3 of their last 5 against Barcelona when they do play in the league. So, you know, all signs pointing to them going down. It's all over but the math. And again, a brief moment for Espanyol and their supporters as they are pretty much down after a 1-0 defeat against Leganés late last week.
Yeah, no league wants to lose a derby of any sort, by the way. So, I mean, and I'm not just reducing their presence in the league to being down to 1 game the day that they invite Barcelona for 90 minutes. It's not what I'm saying, but it's a blow for the league. And we were speaking to Colin Miller last time we were on the show, and he agreed with, they had in that bottom 6 at the time, which was a much tighter bottom 6. Now there's a bit of distance since we last spoke, but he had mentioned they had the most to lose. And it's unfortunate that, and you guys had a bit of a back and forth difference of opinion on their viability to stay in La Liga. And well, one of you's looking right and the other is looking a little wrong. I don't remember. I think it was you, Carlos, who said they don't have enough. You didn't believe a few weeks ago that they were going to climb out. I think Colin was a bit more optimistic, but as it turned out, they look pretty rooted to the bottom. And there was just a couple results when you looked on paper, you thought they could do it. They really could do it. And you thought, okay, you know, there's a chance here. And when you look on paper, and again, the game, I know it's cliche alert first early on in the show, but the game's not played on paper. I know that. But they just look so well matched each and every week they do. And then once again, it just, you know, really fails to inspire, and a lot left to ask from that team. And the table, as you rightly say, doesn't lie. And we can be all emotional and we can talk about the history and past years' performances and whatnot. But in the context of this season, I think we're far in, COVID or no COVID, to know that I think Segunda is where they're bound to, and they're in big trouble. They're gonna have to get rid of some really hefty contracts. They got a lot weighing them down, and with the ambiguity still around whether or not fans will return to the stadium, they're going to realize, they're going to have that stark reality next year that they're that much more reliant on gate receipts. I know we've talked about this before, and things are looking a little grim there. Hate to sort of start on a dark note, but this is more of a continuation from the last time we chatted. So it's not overly pretty for them.
No, and I'm really interested to see as well, Mike, what's going to happen with Raul de Tomas. He's a player that, you know, he departed for Benfica. It was their big marquee signing, and it didn't work out. And within, you know, a handful of months, he was back at Espanyol. And the fact is that, you know, you can be sentimental when a club goes down, but they played Leganés in the, you know, bottom tier matchup, the battle of the basement, and they managed 0 shots on target against the 19th place team in the league in Leganés in what equated to a must-win. So again, it's sad. It's a large club with a beautiful stadium in Barcelona.
Yeah.
But all things considered, fully deserved relegation for me. And you know, you wish them well. You look at some of the teams that are down there in Segunda right now. I mean, you know, not counting Malaga, which is closer to my heart. You've got Zaragoza, you've got Deportivo La Coruña, which have had their struggles the last couple of years. But, you know, it is a division that's similar to, I think, the English Championship or the second division in Germany. There are some fairly large clubs down there that, you know, certainly have the following of a Primera team, of a LaLiga team, and unfortunately just haven't been able to escape. And the way it's trending, you know, Deportivo is going to be there for a while. Malaga's probably going to be there for a while, and that's if they even stay up this year. Segunda is a difficult nut to crack, and I'm not sure if Espanyol is going to be able to become that yo-yo team, kind of like a Rayo Vallecano or, you know, a Granada or a Girona that we've seen in recent years.
Yeah, anybody who has been accused of having slightly shoddy recruitment across Europe is going to be, you know, it's going to be acutely felt this time around, because I know we touched on this last time we were on, is the transfer market's not going to be rich with talent in the way that it always is. It's no longer an easy default to just say, here's our budget, there's the market, that's who's available, here's who's going into the last year of their contract. You know, we can have a discussion about that. It's not that simple anymore. There are players who aren't going to be looking to go in and into the market. There are players who are going to be looking to run down their contracts rather than renegotiating. So I think their ability to go to the negotiation table and find cheaper alternatives who can withstand the rigors of the Segunda, it's not going to be as easy as even it would have been a year ago. So this is why I think the ability for whoever goes down, and in this case we're talking about Espanyol, for them to be a yo-yo is going to be that much more difficult, even I think, than it has in years past. And you rightly mentioned the championship, and we got, you know, it's a bit of a like-for-like comparison when you look at teams like Blackburn, Stoke, you know, teams who were perennial, Reading, you know, teams who were perennial Premier League sides who can't crawl back up. And I don't want to digress and talk all about the championship, but it bears comparison because, it could be a cautionary tale for anybody in the Espanyol top brass to just look across and see what's happening over there, because it can happen to you very, very fast.
Yeah, I can attest to that as a Malaga supporter. It's
first plug for Malaga, fourth.
Interesting couple of years. Interesting couple of years, to say the least. And folks, a reminder, we do have trivia coming up towards the end of the evening. An Atletico Madrid jersey is on the line. And you might want to take a look at the Segunda table between now and 8:15, because there might be 1 or 2 questions pertaining to the Spanish second division when we get to the trivia section later tonight. Now, we do have a couple of guests, as we mentioned, Mike, and I'll let you tee it up with our next 2 guests who will be joining us very shortly here to discuss Real Madrid and Barcelona, 2 huge clubs with their own sets of problems and challenges and expectations in a year like this as well. So if you will, just tee up our next 2 guests.
Yeah, for me, I kind of want to start by saying, how much time do we have? Because we have 2 gentlemen who are with us, who I know if we gave them each an hour platform, we could be here very easily. But without further ado, they're now on screen, so let's welcome them. Michael Miller, hello, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you, Mike?
Good. We were so close to doing the mute error. I saw it happen. I saw it, but we got away with it just in time. And let's Rahul Kalvapalle, how are you, my friend?
Oh, and he is on mute.
Oh, he's on mute.
Sometimes
this is a bad start, but it's okay.
No, it's not. It's not a bad start. I think it wouldn't be a proper welcome to Zoom call if it didn't happen at least once. It's good. It's all good. That's how we know you're here and you're with us. This is great. How you guys both doing? All right?
Doing great.
I'm fine.
So let's, before we jump right into it, because I know you're both probably chomping at the bit to lean in on topics very important and specific to both of your clubs right now, and there's a lot to talk about. But if we were to go around the table here, so jersey game, Carlos has got a Malaga top on, and I know he's hiding another really good football top underneath the jersey. I'll let him decide when he wants to reveal it.
I'll pull it out now. It's a 1939-40 Rio Ave jersey from Portugal. and have to support the local 6th division side in Spain, Chiclana Club de Football, as well.
He's all over the map. He's all over the place tonight. Michael, 14. I mean, give us a little background. Who are we looking at? Oh, full turnaround. You're kind of, is that Cruyff? You got a Cruyff top on. Okay, good stuff. I was trying to think about a modern player because I saw it was a more modern kit, but I love it.
It's a Cruyff jersey. It's the era in which I would like to go back as an FC Barcelona supporter. He is the heart and soul of that club, and even long after his death, he still embodies the ideal when it comes to the values that this club should have.
Yeah, absolutely. And Rahul, I guess in that same vein, do you have Di Stefano on the back of your practice jersey?
No, I've been thinking of buying a retro Di Stefano jersey, but they're hard to find and pretty pricey. But this is a training jersey from 2011, I think. And since Mike has his Cruyff jersey on, I'm kind of regretting not rocking my Zidane Real jersey from 2001 because we would have had a couple of proper legends. But this is going to have to do.
All good. Well, we'll do our best to give you another opportunity maybe down the road to do that. I've gone with a denim top that's resemblant of the one that Barcelona wore off the airplane on the tarmac that day when the entire squad decided to come on with that full denim look head to toe. If you guys remember, I think it was Champions League play actually where they pulled that very fashion forward look. But you know, we'll leave that to history. I think that's one of those things that's best left to history. Okay, is the whole denim head to toe thing that they went for. Anyhow, let's jump into it and let's stop talking about fashion because I know there's a lot of more important things to dive into. Mike, let's start with you if that's all right. I know you and I had chatted a little bit earlier about some of the issues plaguing the club right now. There's a lot of moving parts right now, but I think if we can start on a positive note, your last game was not too bad. I think we're kind of optimistic going into this call, at least if we're falling prey to recency bias. So how are you feeling today about the state of things? Is that win telltale of what's to come, or is that papering over the cracks a little?
It might be a case of too little, too late, unfortunately. And Villarreal is one of those teams that are actually extremely tough to beat. They play the style of football that I would like my team to be playing. They're aggressive, they're dynamic, they're hungry, they're young, and they're talented. And all of these qualities are reminiscent of the Barcelona that I used to really enjoy watching. And beating that team should have been significant if it had happened, let's say, 3 or 4 weeks ago. I would have wanted to see that performance against Sevilla, actually. But unfortunately, Real Madrid seems to have a very fair option on the title right now. And it won't be enough for Barcelona to win every single one of their remaining games. They have to actually hope for Real Madrid to drop a few points. And when you have to rely on other teams' results in order to win a title, even if it works out in the end, it doesn't taste as sweet as a title which you have earned on your own.
Now, Rahul, I want to bring you in from the Real Madrid side. You guys are leading in the title race by 4 points right now. You know, some controversial decisions, some controversial non-decisions. But at a club like Real Madrid, you know, the expectations go so far beyond just the results and just the titles. And I guess my question to you right off the top is this season a success right now from Real Madrid's standpoint with the football they're playing, with the way that, you know, some of their marquee signings have panned out or not panned out? How do you quantify this season? Is it a success? Is it kind of middle of the road by Zidane's standards? Where do you stand on the 1920 Real Madrid season as a whole?
Well, it's true that the style of football definitely isn't mesmeric or electrifying. Like we do score some spectacular goals every now and again, but generally the team plays more conservative. But I think this is one of those rare seasons where most Real fans will give the coach a pass on this, because last season was an absolute disaster for us. And coming into this season, my personal priority and that of Zidane's as well was really to win LaLiga more so than the Champions League, because we've grown tired of seeing Barca win it so frequently over the last 15 years. And considering that the Champions League is not looking good for us at this point, being a 2-1 down to Man City, I think if we chug our way to the league title, even if it isn't spectacular, to win a Liga title without Ronaldo and essentially without Hazard, pretty much, would be a pretty big achievement. So So yeah, I do think Real fans would be happy despite the football not being the greatest.
Mike, I'm going to come back to you for a second. I mean, Rahul's, we just spoke about some of the on-field issues, despite this sort of conversation between practicality and beauty is an ongoing one, especially for a club like yours in FC Barcelona, when there is an identity that I would presume, feels maybe has dropped off a little bit in the last year in terms of what's that. I know it's a bit of a cliche and I hate to use this, but that Barcelona, DNA, what's happened to that especially in the last year. But I know we've spoken before about this problem isn't just exclusive to 2019-20. The roots of this problem that we're seeing now with Barcelona started a little bit earlier. Where do you think this began for you, the issues that the club is facing at the moment?
Honestly, I would say that the 2015 treble was the tree that hid the entire forest, because it occurred on an election year under a board of directors that should have been voted out. But because of the enthusiasm that was given to the socios, thanks to the treble, that board of directors their mandate was renewed, and then we started seeing the likes of Dani Alves lead the club in quite the spectacular fashion. And I think that was the beginning of the end in terms of the atmosphere in that locker room. Mm-hmm. After that, shortly thereafter, Neymar followed suit and left. And when you have two out of the top three players in the world in 2017 anyway, and you lose one of them, obviously it's going to have a direct impact on your performances. You're no longer able to perform in LaLiga and the Champions League at the same time. And, Rahul says that, Real Madrid, they've been successful in the Champions League, but not quite in LaLiga. If there's something that FC Barcelona could be jealous of Real Madrid about, it's the exact opposite. We don't have the success that we feel we should have in the Champions League, even though we're performing in La Liga. How many other clubs in the world do you know who would consider a domestic double to be a failed season simply because of two straight early exits in the Champions League due to spectacular remontadas? The other thing that I would say about how the on-field issues have started, the root of them anyway, is the fact that you have way too many members of that 2015 treble still part of that team. We haven't been able to renew our squad, and we stay attached to these players because of a number of reasons. Maybe because the board of directors don't want to rock the boat or rock the cage too much. But apart from Lionel Messi and Marc-André Ter Stegen, among the 2015 edition, there aren't too many players that I would have kept. Maybe Busquets, and not at the amount of minutes that he has been playing lately. Maybe as a sub to Frankie de Jong, which should be earning many more minutes at that position. That being said, it's something that Real Madrid does that Barcelona should learn to do. It's how to part ways with your stars in order to keep your core always on their feet. When you're not competing for anything and you're guaranteed minutes, how are you expected to perform not only on 1, 2, but 3 extremely difficult competitions at the same time?
And Mike, I want to follow up on kind of this idea of Barcelona not being satisfied with where they're at right now, and how it relates to Quique Setién. I mean, for me, this is one of the most enigmatic, charismatic managers in La Liga today. We saw, he was a god at Betis at times, and at other times he was the GOAT in and not in the good way in Seville. What's the vibe right now at Barcelona? I mean, obviously there was rumors of, dressing room turmoil and all that, and certain slow-mo videos of interactions on the bench over the last couple of weeks. Where does the fan base kind of sit right now from your perspective on Quique Setién? Because for me, I think he's a fantastic manager, and I think he's in a difficult position. But what's your take as somebody that lives and breathes this club on a day-to-day basis?
Quique Setién was not the man of the situation. He never was. He doesn't have the pedigree that is required to lead the team like Barcelona, and that has been my opinion since that name started being tossed around. in rumors. That being said, I don't think that Valverde was the man of the situation either, but I don't think that he was the root of the problem. It's just that it's much easier to fire a coach than it is to fire a squad of 20 to 25 players. But Quique Setien, before his experiences at Real Betis and Las Palmas, he had managed the squads in the Segunda and the Tercera, I think Equatorial Guinea, an African nation that has never qualified to the FIFA World Cup. He didn't have the CV to manage, to lead, first of all, not just to manage, but to lead a complicated locker room as that of FC Barcelona. When you have egos like Piqué, like Messi, like Jordi Alba, like players who have been together for years and years and years and have won everything together, how does Quique Setien get the required credibility to lead a team like that? I would have wanted to see someone with a CV, someone with a personality. And, you know, I'm not thinking about Guardiola or someone like that, because that chapter of FC Barcelona, in my opinion, is closed. And unless he comes back in 10 or 15 years, we shouldn't even think about him. But there are plenty managers around Europe that would have been able to come in and break that tension and make those players, especially those senior players, fall in line, or worst case, part ways with some of them. But when you have someone like a Valverde or like a Quique Setien, their only job is to appease appease these senior players and flatter their egos and make sure that they kind of like are happy with the way things are going in the day-to-day operations of the team. But right now we have what I like to call a players' republic. In that locker room, players are taking charge, not the manager. No matter who you're gonna put in Setien's place, it's gonna be the same thing until the board of directors, until the sporting directions has the courage to name someone who's gonna implement a revolution in that locker room. But I agree, it's gonna take a lot of guts. But until that happens, I don't think that Barcelona is gonna win that many trophies.
It's so incredibly difficult. I mean, I think to myself, wasn't the blueprint for success in terms of managing big personalities, at least in a recent context, would have been when Ancelotti was at Real Madrid? No, I feel that for that one season, or at least season and a bit, however long it was, Rahul can correct me on that, there seemed to be so much harmony, right? And he just seemed to be someone who was able to get everybody on one hymn sheet. And again, it's a case-by-case thing. There are such a short, razor thin, I'd say, pool of managers who would work at either of your two clubs. But I think if we look back to somebody outside of someone who was born and bred through the system, like you were mentioned, like Guardiola, of course, is, I think Ancelotti would have been sort of the closest blueprint for success that we've had, at least recently, I think.
Yeah, I think that's 100% fair. And it kind of goes back to other discussions we've had on previous Footy Talks LaLiga pods, Mike, and even dating back to the awesome panel we had here in Toronto last fall. These are clubs where the expectations are so inflated and the media attention is really unrivaled. It's unparalleled really anywhere else in the world, the attention that is constantly on these two clubs. And you're right, it takes an ego manager just as much, if not more, as a brilliant tactician to really make things work. Now, Rahul, I want to bring up a name from the past here, and we'll ask Mike as well after, but it's a name from the past. It's a name that has the rare distinction of having played 150 matches for both clubs. And I wanted to get, Rahul, first your perspective on the name Luis Figo, what he meant to the club, how he symbolized that generation. And then we'll swing to Mike, because obviously it's a very divisive case, even all these years later, as a player that went from, Barca to Madrid. So Rahul, tell us a little bit about Figo's legacy and what you remember of his contributions during that era at Real Madrid.
Well, Figo joined Real Madrid at a time when I was maybe 1 or 2 years into starting supporting Real. I started supporting them just before the Galacticos era began. So at the time, I didn't quite appreciate the significance of him ditching Barcelona for Real. But I do think in terms of his legacy, when people talk about the Galacticos, the names that come to most people's lips first are Zidane, Ronaldo, Beckham, and then Figo. And I think sometimes Figo's contributions to league title and the 2001-2002 Champions League title are sometimes understated. And he was a fantastic winger for us. He often even played through the middle to accommodate Beckham playing wide, and he gave it all for Real, often enduring difficult situations such as having a pig's head thrown at him at the Camp Nou. And now he does seem to identify a lot more with Real now in his post-playing career years. I'm not going to lie. It always gives you great satisfaction when you can snag your opponent's star player, because it clearly hurts them to this day. I can see it on Michael's face. So it was a fantastic coup in terms of the way that Florentino Perez orchestrated that signing, as well, at a time when he wasn't the big Godfather Perez that we know today. It was really an audacious thing to pull off, and it paid dividends. And I don't think we'll see any transfers like that for a long time to come between Real and Barca, because it's just impossible to even imagine nowadays with social media and the extent of media pressure nowadays for a switch like that to happen, for the best or arguably the best player of one club to go to the other side. Fantastic.
And so, Michael, I'll wrap with you and just ask, obviously Figo had some pretty major contributions through the mid and late 90s at Barcelona before his move to join Los Galacticos. So I guess my question is, does that treason, the betrayal, does that outweigh his legacy amongst Barcelona fans, or has enough time passed that you're able to kind of separate and appreciate what he did during his 5 seasons at Barca?
I was a teenager when he left, and I have to remind everybody that the late, great Johan Cruyff brought him to FC Barcelona, and he delivered exactly what Johan Cruyff had expected. He was, up to that point, one of the greatest players we had ever seen. And obviously I was a teenager. I was 14, 15 years old when the transfer happened. So at the time, obviously I reacted emotionally, and I, like most FC Barcelona fans today, I thought he had betrayed us. He had committed the unforgivable. But now, as a grown man, as a 36-year-old man, as a chartered accountant, I can appreciate the business side of it. I can appreciate that he wasn't made whole by the board of directors, by the administrators led by Johan Gaspard at the time, that he was underpaid for what he had brought to the club, not just on the field, but as a symbol, a cultural symbol for FC Barcelona. So as a professional soccer player, your allegiances are not the same as they would be, let's say, for the common supporter. If you're not made whole, if you're not given what you're worth on a very limited professional soccer career, because he had maybe like another, not even 10 years to make his money and then retire. So I can absolutely appreciate the reasons why he had done it. But as a fan, I'm still heartbroken about it, because if Figo had stayed these maybe just 5 extra years, we could have won multiple European titles. We could have won multiple LaLigas. And it's one of the greatest, sporting tragedies, let's say, one of the greatest wastes in the history of FC Barcelona. But I'm not as bitter now as I used to be, but I understand that I'm not speaking on behalf of every FC Barcelona fan out there when I say that.
Right. So that'll be a wrap for us, guys. Michael Miller, tell us where viewers and listeners can find you on Twitter.
At Mike Miller FC. I have several podcasts in French and English. I cover FC Barcelona on the Blaugrana podcast, and I cover Canadian soccer on the Premier podcast. If you want to have a link to all my various projects, as well as Club Blaugrana Montreal, which is the first official FC Barcelona supporter club in Canada, all of that can be found in my bio at Mike Miller FC.
Fantastic. And Rahul Kalvapalle, thank you for joining us. And where can we find you on social media?
Yeah, so my Twitter handle is at Kalvapalle, which is my last name, which people can see up there on the screen. I do occasionally write for Managing Madrid on SB Nation. I don't do as much football journalism as I used to, but people can always follow me on there for any dialogue about the best league in the world. And for any Madrid fans out there, we're also trying to set up a Peña Madridista in Toronto, an official fan club like Michael has for the Blaugrana in Montreal. So if anyone would be interested in getting involved, hit up my DMs and we'll chat it up.
Excellent. Thanks so much for joining us, gents.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Pleasure.
Guys.
Yes.
Fantastic. And Mike, that's going to swing us pretty much right away into Atletico Ottawa's Ben Fisk. Now, a little bit of background on this player. Ben is obviously a graduate of the Whitecaps U23 Academy program. Played overseas. You're talking Corucho in Segunda B, Deportivo B, and is kind of at a winding pathway back home. He was with Pacific FC in the Canadian Premier League's debut season in 2019. And was really the marquee Canadian signing for Atletico Ottawa in this past offseason as the club, obviously runs into this debut 2020 season, which has been delayed. But, the rumors are swirling and there's definite excitement on the ground. I can confirm as an Ottawa guy, a lot of people still, a lot of friends back home really excited about Atletico Ottawa and some of the talent they've brought in with players like Ben Fisk on the Canadian side, as well as Acuna on the Mexican side. Foreign players coming through as well. Really an interesting project as well, Mike, as we're going to bring Ben in shortly here. But really just interesting to see Atletico join the league as this 8th team, and I think Ben's going to be joining us shortly. But 8th team, Atletico Ottawa, really interesting project that Atletico de Madrid is undertaking here in Canada.
It's incredibly exciting, and I think when you look at the strides made in the first year of the CPL, I mean, I was a season ticket holder for York 9, and I saw all the teams. I think every team by the end of the season come through and play at least a couple times, and it was fabulous. I think soccer fans got beyond what they probably anticipated in terms of on-field play, and then now when you start to see a massive, large, recognizable name like Atletico take stock of what we're building here in Canada, it's a pretty special time. But I'm not the one who's in the best position to talk about those strides being made. And the gentleman who is on the call with us now. Ben, how are you?
What's happening, guys? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for coming. Look, Carlos kind of did the little intro for you, and I'll let you give an intro of yourself as well. You're a well-traveled footballer. So tell us a little bit about, people through online and through YouTube, I know there's a lot of familiarity with where you've come from in your professional career, but give us an update on maybe where you got to where you are today in the last year. What has the last year been like for you? Quite a few changes, and I'd imagine you've been going through an extremely interesting welcome to a new club. I don't think there's been any club that I know of who's had to announce themselves to the footballing world in the way that your current club has during this very strange time that we're living. So get us up to speed about what the last year has been like for you, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, the last year's been a bit of a whirlwind for sure. Coming back to the CPL was a pretty unique opportunity to come help grow the sport I love in the country I love. I was really proud and excited to be a part of that. And, making the move to Ottawa was really just about, looking at my future as a footballer. I still feel I'm young in the game, and I've got a lot of improving to do, and I just wanted to give myself that best shot to kind of take that bigger leap forward in my career. And I just thought, what better way to do that than to be under the Atletico umbrella. I think Atletico Madrid in the last 10 years has become one of the top clubs in the world, and on both sides of on the field and on the business side of it as well. So that was the main reason for the decision, was just to give myself kind of the most opportunities moving forward.
Now, I've had the chance to see Atleti's training facilities in Madrid, and I'm assuming you guys stayed in Majadahonda when you initially went out for training camp. So what was that experience like? I mean, obviously it was unfortunately cut short due to the COVID situation, but that still must have been a really unique experience for you, having previously been in Spain and then kind of being able to enter the gates of Eden, so to speak, and experience the behind the scenes at a club like Atletico.
For sure. I mean, first and foremost, it was a huge tease because we were all prepared to be there for I think it was 5-6 weeks. So, day one when you're walking through those doors and training, with one of the top facilities in the world. It's a brand new facility that they've built there, and it was just supposed to be kind of a month in dreamland for us. And obviously, we all know what happened after that, but. For me personally, the nice thing about it was just to feel kind of a part of that organization and, You know, I'm not going to say I've always been an Atletico Madrid fan, but I will say it's always been a club that has really spoken to me just with the values that they always show on and off the pitch. You know, humility, hard work, passion. Those are, you know, values that I take very seriously and try to live my life by. And so for me, it just seemed like a perfect fit.
Now, you've had a pretty winding career path and specifically some really unique experience in Spain as well, playing for Corucho in Segunda B and then Deportivo de La Coruña's B team. Just tell us a little bit about what your professional experience was like. Again, as you mentioned, at a pretty young age, kind of grinding it out in the mid ranges of Spanish professional football. What were those experiences like? And I'm sure Corucho playing out of Ovao along the coast there was very different from your experience with Depor B.
Yeah, someone's done their homework. You know, it was first of all, it was, you know, wise the two years of salt I learned. You know, if you look at my career path, I think it probably doesn't take a rocket scientist to bounce around quite a bit, and it's and that is just always, you know, kind of betting on myself, trying to take that big leap forward. And you know, I felt my 2 years in Spain we're chasing that dream, and obviously, you know, ended up coming back to Canada, but you know, I felt like I learned so much during those 2 years that it's really created the player that I am today, and you know, now it's kind of come full circle, playing for a Canadian, but you know, Spanish influence club now, and kind of being that link between two cultures.
Yeah, Ben, what I'm really interested to know, I mean, you were in and around the Whitecaps organization during the early days of that club, and now here you are again over the last couple of years in and around another club at the early stages of their creation, right? I mean, you can go from last year, the inaugural season of the CPL. Not only was that a first for your club, but it was a first for the whole league, which is really unique. And now you're starting this new journey again. I mean, tell us a little bit about when you look at how the clubs both, both Atletico Ottawa and what you experienced in Vancouver, what is being done right in your eyes? I mean, you're a well-traveled footballer, so what do you see is being done right on the CPL side, and what do you think has been done right on the part of Atletico Ottawa as we try to get this club off the ground alongside a league that has a lot of excitement behind it? I mean, what has left you feeling optimistic as we go into season 2 of the Canadian Premier League?
I think, you know, the biggest thing for me is just seeing how professionally run Atletico Ottawa has been from day one. You know, I'd go so far as to say that you know, through all that's gone on in the past 4 or 5 months, like, this is the most well-run club I've been a part of. You know, we've got guys like our CEO Fernando Lopez, who, you know, I think he's got one title, but I think the guy's doing 10 different jobs. You know, it's just a great group of people that are working so hard, all towards the same goals. And I think you know, you couldn't pick a more difficult year to get a club off the ground in. But I've just been so impressed with how we've all come together to succeed through it all, and I'm really excited to see what that on-field product looks like when we get back on the pitch.
And, you know, you talk about the opportunity to live and play in the nation's capital, and it is a Canadian professional soccer team. But, you know, compared to maybe what you saw in the CPL last year, what your experience was in Pacific, what kind of differences are there leading into Atletico Ottawa? You know, in terms of, is it new methodology with the coaches? Is it a different kind of marketing approach through the Atletico family? Just talk a bit about what this new opportunity is like, and some of the ways you guys are trying to engage the Ottawa community.
Yeah, I mean, I think a big challenge for us is to try and connect the two cultures. You know, we've obviously got a heavy Spanish influence, but I'm sure, you know, the guys from Atletico would be the first to tell you they don't want it to be a Spanish club in Canada, right? They want it to be a Canadian club that Canadians around the city and around the country can be proud of. And so they've just done a really good job of kind of navigating that fine line of obviously, you know, the Spanish are one of the top football countries in the world. So they obviously know a lot about the game and how to build a successful club. But, I just think they're doing a great job of also respecting the country that they're in and what what the market is like here, both for players, obviously, with who they brought in, but also off the pitch on the marketing side, the ticketing side. I just really think they've done their due diligence and they're setting us up for a great year.
Ben, one last thing I'd love to know. I mean, you're a bit of a leader. You're not more than a bit of a leader on your current team. You've worn the national team colors before. Like I said, you've been a part of the Whitecaps organization, and you've had experience in Europe. So for some of the younger players who are coming through in Atletico Ottawa, and in a lot of cases, this might be their first foray into professional football. What advice would you leave with them as someone who's seen a lot and who's been around a lot of clubs of all different sizes? What's one piece of advice for some of your younger teammates that you would want them to know coming in and trying to break through at a brand new club like Atletico Ottawa?
I think just be humble in your work every day. You can learn from your teammates, from your coaches. Everyone, is here for the same reason. We obviously all want to have successful careers, but that's going to come from a successful team environment. And as you touched on, as one of the older guys in the team, I just kind of try and be an example of that. And I'm gonna give Anton Copeland, who's a 16-year-old, the same respect if he's telling me, "Oh, Ben, that play you should have been in this position. You should have passed to me, whatever." I'm going to give him the same respect when he says that to me as if Misa, the coach, does. So I think just having that humility and being ready to learn and work every single day. If you have a whole team of guys doing that, you're setting yourself up well for success.
I don't know, Ben, I would have never called you old, by the way. Those are your words, not mine, eh?
Well, on the older side, we've got a young team, but I certainly wouldn't call myself old either. I think I've still got a lot to give to the game.
The sport's unfair. It's the only one in the world that I know of, the only job that would consider anybody in their late 20s, oh, what's going on there? It's an unfair, cruel, unforgiving world, isn't it?
Since when is 27 late 20s? I think that's still mid-20s in my book.
Oh, God, what does that make me?
Atletico Ottawa's Ben Fisk joins us. We do have one question from a viewer here, Ben, if you don't mind. James Bridges in. Be interested to know what Ben's thoughts are on how Atletico's current squad is shaping up. What does he think is a big strength for the squad? And is there a particularly style that you'd like to be aiming to play?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to leave the style questions to our coaching staff, but I will say I'm, extremely excited and really happy with how we want to play. I think as a player, it suits me really well. So people can read into that what they want. One thing I really like, we've got a lot of speed in the team, and I'm the type of player I like the ball at my feet, and I like to have kind of speedy guys creating space for me. So guys like Kunle Dadaluk, Malik Hamilton, our new signing Malcolm Shaw up top, just to name a few. I could go on, but these are guys with not only quality on the ball but some blistering pace. So I think, that suits me well. It'll create some space for me to hopefully get some chances and set them up as well.
Ben, you're quite active on social media. Where can viewers and listeners find you and Atletico Ottawa online?
On Instagram at Benjamin Fisk and on Twitter at Ben Fisk.
Fantastic. Ben, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it. And best of luck in 2020 when you guys do eventually get kicked off. All the best. Hope to see soccer succeed in Ottawa.
Cheers, guys. Thank you very much for having me, and I look forward to chatting again soon.
All the best, Ben.
So again, that's Ben Fisk from Atletico Ottawa. And we knew coming into the interview, he's a very well-spoken, very well-traveled footballer as well, Mike. But the one sense that I do get from people on the ground in Ottawa, and I do know quite a few people involved either directly or indirectly with the organization, is that they are going about things the right way. And as an Ottawa native, I used to work for Fury FC for a number of years, really excited about the future for professional soccer in Ottawa when things do return to normal. There is definitely a buzz around the city amongst the soccer community, at least, about this team. And certainly seems to be the case that they're being run the right way. So really excited for Ben Fisk and the rest of the folks involved in that project.
Yeah, the spine of the club from an administrative standpoint, to just have Atletico Madrid as an example, as a model for how you want to run your club and what ethos you want to instill in your club, that cannot be understated. There's enough confusion around any startup, inside and outside of sport, where just to have a little bit of structure, or a lot of structure, I should say, it makes a world of difference. And I think when you look at the CPL, they've overcome a lot to launch the league. And lo and behold, just when things start to look nice, they have to now overcome that much more because they're working through a global pandemic, which has brought sport to a grinding halt. So again, even now, considering the current state of things, I think it's even more important to have a team like Atletico Madrid guiding you and sort of showing you the way in terms of how to carry yourself and how to be and so on. And for anybody, by the way, tuning in for the first time, you'll notice Carlos will drag you back to Ottawa, to the relationship between Spain and Portugal, and in specific in the area in and around Malaga. So you've done an amazing job at that. Again, you never fails.
Just consistent. So Mike, without further ado, let's keep this show on the road. We got 12, 13 minutes to get a lot done here. We've got our weekly best bits, and then we do have trivia. Now, folks, we have 10 trivia questions for you tonight. There is an Atletico Madrid jersey on the line. Again, thanks to our partner LaLiga for providing us with that. All the answers will be going directly into the chat, so send them there. But in the meantime, while you guys continue to furiously research Segunda and Sergio Ramos and a number of other topics that are coming up shortly, let's get right into it with our best bits. Mike, let's start off with the number one thing that blew your mind in Spanish soccer this week.
Well, the number one thing that made me most happy, I'll leave that for the last, my best for last. But in terms of best bits, there was quite a few things I liked that came in the last couple of weeks of Spanish football. First of all, I'm as a neutral, and my club allegiances lie outside of Spain, so I can watch an entire La Liga game as a complete neutral and just enjoy and find loves for different clubs for different reasons. And Eibar has been one of those great stories over the last few years that I've really grown to really love. I mean, the small stadium, they're very endearing as a small club who furiously punches above their weight. I kind of love their story. And this week, I mean, they've had a couple really important results in the last couple. And this is a very simple one, but my best bet is I think I might just jinx them, but I think they finally have climbed out of the relegation zone. So I believe that we're going to have another year of La Liga football for the club. I think it's so important for them. It's incredibly important for their community. And I just love to see that they're getting closer and closer to safety. Another one, and again, this is something I can easily sit back and enjoy as a neutral, Antoine Griezmann finally looking like Antoine Griezmann. I mean, to me, it's just so simple, but we saw him tear apart international football and club football for so many years, and all of a sudden now, he comes to Barcelona, and Mike Miller touched on this quite a bit, but there's just problems abound, and unfortunately we're in this position where there's more bad things to say than good things at the moment. I'm considering the extremely high standards of a club like Barcelona. So just to see Griezmann look in full flow and get a goal and really look in his element was so pleasing to me, because again, as a neutral, I want to see somebody like that turn it on week in, week out. It's a great joy to watch him play. So that was probably my second favorite thing I saw all weekend, was just seeing him smile and happy. And the best part, here's my favorite. So did you hear about Valencia's initiative with Jose Andres, famous Spanish chef? Did you hear about this?
No, I didn't hear about it.
So any viewers also of Italian soccer in Canada, if you've been watching Tele Latino, you might have noticed Jose Andres, famous Spanish chef. He has a show that's run frequently. He's a wonderful personality. He has teamed up with Valencia to actually cook meals and provide thousands and thousands of hot meals to people within the local community. Again, I am so happy to see this happen, because it's so easy now that soccer's back on week in, week out in a very aggressive way to almost forget where we've come from, because things feel normal. It's so easy when there's football on TV to just let that paper over the cracks and say, oh my, hold on, wait, we're still dealing with this massive pandemic. We're now dealing with the shock effects that have been the last 3 months, and it hasn't gone away, despite the fact that we're talking about league table positions and there's goals and assists and saves to talk about. No, we're still very much in this fight. So to see someone with a huge profile in the country like Chef Jose Andres, Jose Andres Puerta, actually I think is his full name, team up with a club like Valencia, I think that's going to have a huge impact, and he's providing quite a bit of support in this fight against COVID-19. Best story I saw all weekend. It's just so easy for him to get himself involved in 1,000 other engagements because of his profile, but he brought it back to football. I think he understands the community element that a club like Valencia can have, and for me that was just the best thing I saw all week. Love it.
Mike DeLuca, ever the believer in the social and uniting power of football. Got it. No, seriously, great
Three
find.
favorite yeah, sorry to catch you up, but it's true. I mean, we spoke about this a couple of shows back. Community football clubs as beacons for community life has always been sort of a cornerstone of why they exist, and now more than ever, given the fact that we're all struggling in our own right, and they'll play a hugely important role as the weeks and months roll on. So yeah.
Absolutely, and like you said, really happy that we're going to get another season's worth of rainy Tuesdays at Ipurua with Ibar staying up. My turn now for weekly best bits. Going to keep it brief here. Firstly, Leganés pick up a win. It's likely too little too late, but they did win 1-0 at Espanyol in what might have been, quite frankly, the worst game of the season. There were 2 shots on target combined. There was a red card in the 89th minute. Leganés scored on their only real opportunity, the only real opportunity of the game. And I was still super glad I watched it, because watching what Leganés are doing right now with no Brathwaite, no Endesidi, this is a club that has literally had their strike force ripped from them by the emergency transfer situations. Really happy to see them and their supporters at least pick up 3 points down the stretch. This is a club that really doesn't have an attacking presence right now, and they're still finding ways to grind out results and stay in games. So really happy to see that, even though they are likely going to be in Segunda for the foreseeable future. Secondly, Lucas Ocampos. Yes, the outfield player, Lucas Ocampos, made a 99th minute save for Sevilla against Ibar to preserve their 1-0 win. There's a really great picture. You can tell he has no idea what he's doing. He's basically starfishing and hoping that the ball hits him. Anyways, he basically saved Sevilla a very key 2 points in a 1-0 win over Ibar after Vaz, I believe it was sent off. As a result, Sevilla very much still in the mix, and the European race is very much still on in those kind of 3rd through 7th spots in Spain. Lastly, and for my money, the best bit, Huesca in the Segunda. There was a bit of a viral tweet, I believe it was earlier this week. I forget which journalist it was. Either way, she pointed out Huesca, for all of their 21 away matches in the Liga Smartbank, the Segunda División as it used to be known, are honoring the local counties, local cultures of the clubs that they're playing at. So, for instance, when they went to play Malaga, they had a pescado, fish-themed captain's armband. So every time they go to an away day, their captain has a unique armband that is actually celebrating the culture of their host opponents. So for me, that's really cool. Again, Mike, we've talked about it so often, but for me, that's a great example of the cultural aspect of soccer, what the team represents, and then also the cultural diversity from province to province that exists within Spain. So for me, seeing that Twitter thread, which I'll fire out to the Footy Talks Twitter page as well, was a really, really interesting thread. 21 unique armbands too. That takes a lot in terms of design and execution. And, kudos to Huesca, another small club that do things the right way. They were a joy to have in LaLiga when they were there briefly. And all the best to them. That's a fantastic initiative. So without further ado, I will throw it over to you. But again, my 3 best bits this week: Leganés picking up a win, too little, too late, still awesome. Lucas Ocampos making a save and goal despite having no idea what he was doing, and Huesca's 21 unique cultural away captain's armbands. Over to you for the trivia, Mike.
Well, yeah, and just before jumping into that, I mean, everything is so machine engineered. They're almost too perfect professional footballers. So when you see Lucas Ocampos in net looking like he doesn't know at all what to do, it's so beautiful. It's so innocent, right? And I mean, I recall John Terry and Harry Kane having a go in goal recently as well. I love it. It humanizes them in such a real way. So you can't not like that. Unless, as I suppose, you're a supporter of the club hoping for 3 points, then maybe you like that whatsoever.
Tough year to be Espanyol.
Alrighty, so let's jump right into it with the trivia. Yeah, as Carlos mentioned, we're going to be using the chat feature. So I hope everybody can find the chat feature. It should either be along the bottom on a taskbar or along the top of your Zoom screen if you're unfamiliar with Zoom. But do put your answers in there, and then we'll tally up winners at the end. We have 10 questions, Carlos. We got 10 questions. Okay, so I'm going to fire off the first 5. Unless my partner here is desperate to have the first 5, but I think he can give that to me. And I'll be giving Carlos the latter 5 here. So, yeah, Carlos teed you up a little bit for what to expect from the trivia. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Pardon me, I'm just going to pull them up. All right, I have the questions in front of me. So I'm going to give you guys a 3, 2, 1. And let's get into it. So my first question, and I'll do a little repeat in case I have any audio troubles, but Sergio Ramos, where else would we start? Where else would we start? Sergio Ramos' successfully converted PK against Atletico Bilbao was his what in a row? So he's made a name for himself in scoring from the penalty spot recently, you might have noticed. And he did just score another one against Bilbao just recently. And what consecutive number of penalties has he achieved in a row now? I'm going to give you 4 options. 21st in a row, 19th in a row, 28th in a row, or 22nd in a row. So one of those numbers is actually representative of the number of consecutive penalty shots that Sergio Ramos has completed successfully for Real Madrid recently, which for a center back, I mean, incredible. Incredible. And it has tried a Panenka on what I would imagine would be half of those. So he seems to have a love for the Panenka, which is good. He's a showman. Okay.
He definitely is that. I mean, it's hard to think of a more entertaining center back these days.
Yeah, there's few players in modern football where I can think of that have a high likelihood in a 90-minute game of getting sent off, scoring from a set piece with a head, scoring a Panenka, and possibly also causing a bit of a tunnel brawl. So it's an exciting time to be watching Real Madrid. I'm going to do another 5 seconds here. Give everybody a chance. I think we have all the answers in, but I'll just do a 3, 2. Okay. Again, so we're going to tally up some answers there at the very end. We're not going to get into them now, I believe. So let's move right on to number 2. So, Atletico Madrid question. We've heard a lot about Atletico tonight. I like it. Atletico Madrid have won La Liga 10 times throughout their history, 10 times. Only one of those wins included a captain who was not Spanish. So one Atletico title victory squad, I should say, had a captain who was not from Spain. One of these 4 players is the answer. So I'm going to give you a little multiple choice here. Is it either A, Maxi Rodriguez, B, Turkey's Arda Turan, B, Portugal's Paulo Futre, or C, is it D, is it Diego Godin? So again, that's Diego Godin, Paulo Futre, Arda Turan, or Maxi Rodriguez. One of those is the answer, and that was the individual who captained a La Liga winning Atletico side. Okay? All fantastic players.
I have to love the Paulo Futre Portuguese angle again. Just finds its way in there every episode.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is that was a question actually I came up with. So that wasn't even you taking the reins there. That was one of mine. So
osmosis.
All incredible players as well. Actually, I mean, I almost this is terrible on my part. I almost forgot how impactful Maxi Rodriguez was during his time in Spain as well. He was such a well-traveled player, and he had such a presence along so many other leagues and clubs. So yeah, it was really incredible to see his name come up. So yeah. I think the questions or the answers are in. So I am going to now steadily move along. Question number 3. Who was the last Spanish team to win the Europa League / UEFA Cup, not named Atletico Madrid or Sevilla? So who was the last Spanish team to win the UEFA Cup / Europa League and not named Atletico Madrid or Sevilla? And here are your options. Real Madrid, Valencia, Deportivo La Coruña, or Real Betis?
I can tell you who it was not, Mike.
Well, let's not do that. Why would you? This isn't Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. You know, don't feel generous. Don't.
This has turned into the La Liga Footy Talks rip on Real Betis show.
Carlos. He always, and that's another one of his core tenets, is he circles back for whatever reason to tearing apart Real Betis. We will give, maybe down in the future, we'll give you the whole phone a friend or 50-50 option. But right now, Carlos, you're just making it terribly easy, aren't you? Giving things away. He's feeling generous. Alrighty, I think the answers are coming in for that one as well. So another 3 seconds here. 1, 2, 3. Alrighty. So let's move on to number 4. Which of the following players was not, again, that's not a member of Real Madrid's youth academy, known as La Fábrica? Very nice name, by the way, for a youth academy. So which of these following players was not a member of Real Madrid's La Fábrica youth academy? 1, Dani Parejo. 2, Santiago Canizares. 3, Juan Mata. Or 4, Hector Bellerin. So one of those players did not come through Real Madrid's youth academy. All sensational players, again, on that list.
Santiago Canizares. There's a player, Mike, that, I think a lot of people outside of Spain never fully appreciated what a fantastic keeper he was, just because for a number of years he was buried on the Spanish national team, right? And I mean, he still ended up with 46 caps, but just a really, really solid goalkeeper for over a decade at Valencia after departing Real Madrid. Not saying the answer. I'm just expounding a little bit.
Yeah, it's incredible too, and if anybody who missed his playing days wants to get an idea kind of what we're talking about, he really was an incredible goalie. He carried a Valencia squad to a European Cup final as well, and I think that's easy to forget. But
now
YouTube,
who's giving answers away?
No. But YouTube is brilliant also for if you ever been on the UEFA YouTube channel, they have some really wonderful 8-minute clippings of different Champions League finals and whatnot. And then the one I believe was against Bayern Munich, if I'm not mistaken. You really do get a chance to fully understand what a presence he was. And you're right, always on the fringes of a Spanish team, because he came through an era of sensational keepers, and that's kind of cruel and unfair to him because he was sensational and also incredible hair. I mean, one of
just a shock of blonde.
Yeah, he was the frosted tips generation, which is sorely missed. I think we all need a little bit more frosted 90s tips back in La Liga. Alrighty, answers are in. So, get right back into it. So this is my last one before I hand the reins over to our resident Malaga fan. So, since the 2002-03 season, incredibly, only one Spaniard has won the Pichichi. The Pichichi, for those of you who don't know, is the scoring title in Spain. So since 2002-03, only one other Spaniard has won the scoring title in La Liga. And I'm going to ask you who it is. So here are your 4 options. Is it the legendary Rahul? Is it Fernando Torres? Is it Dani Guiza? Or is it Aritz Aduriz? I love any excuse to have Aduriz, by the way, mentioned in any football conversation. So again, since 2002-03, there has only been one Spanish player to win the Pichichi, and your options for this one are Rahul, Fernando Torres, Dani Guiza, or Bilbao's famous Aritz Aduriz, recently retired, very sadly. So some of the answers are coming in. Do you have a favorite, Carlos, a favorite player within that foursome?
Oh, there's some fantastic ones. They all stand for something different, right? Rahul spearheading those electric Galacticos teams. Fernando Torres getting the job done at multiple major clubs across Europe. Dani Guiza, of course, interesting, and Aritz Aduriz, what he represented as well, as a cultural symbol as well in his section of Spain, in his province, isn't insignificant, and that's another one of those stories. You talk about those kind of 4th to 10th place clubs in the table, your and Real Betis isn't even there anymore, but your Athletic Bilbao's, your Real Sociedad in San Sebastián, these are clubs that mean something in those places. And so a player like Aritz Aduriz, he's not as big as Rahul. He's not a continental or global personality like Fernando Torres, but in his corner of Spain, he was a god. at the peak of his powers, right? So I'd have to go with Aduriz just because of, what he represented in that section of Spain.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I mean, we very rarely anymore, because of how much chopping and changing there is with squads and how much movement there is, and even Aduriz himself has moved around a little bit during his time. But these emotional send-offs we've seen from big name retirements in the last few years. I mean, certainly in the case of Rahul, Torres, and Aduriz, those are three players who are probably warranting of a testimonial or an emotional send-off. And those characters, I feel, are few and far between. I mean, at the risk of sounding like an old fogey, and but you just don't have many characters like that. So Torres, I mean, showed his passion and allegiance for his club when he returned later on, and Rahul as well. I mean, but for a brief stint in Germany, I mean, he's recognized strictly and solely with one club. He's the only guy as well who made that Galactico era not feel so Galactico. He was true to the heart of it, right? So, all right. So before I start going on a long tangent about Rahul, I'm going to pass it off to you.
Alrighty, moving on to question 6, folks. We got 5 more. Again, keep them coming in the chat, in the Facebook comments, wherever you're tuning in. We will be tallying these up after the fact. Only one African player won the La Liga Player of the Month honors in 2019. Who was it? There's some Villarreal legends on this list. Cedric Bakambu, Carl Toko Ekambi, Andre Zambo Anguissa, or Baba Rahman. So there's some good names in there. Bakambu, Ekambi, Anguissa, and Rahman. Give you guys a little bit of time to get your answers in the chat there. Yeah. Again, only one African player won La Liga Player of the Month honors in 2019. Who was it? Bakambu, Ekambi, Zambo Anguissa, and Rahman. Some great players in there.
Yeah, all excellent players. And if I'm not mistaken, Bakambu is from Cape Verde. I'd have to double check where he's from, but I know he's a flag bearer for his home nation.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Cedric Bakambu, I'll double check it, but French, but competes at the international level for the Democratic Republic of Congo. A very well-traveled guy as well, with some stints in Turkey in there as well. So moving on, this might be the easiest trivia question of the 10. Which footballing icon currently owns an 82% share of Valladolid in La Liga? Is it A, Luis Figo, my guy, B, Ronaldo Nazario, C, David Villa, or D, Franz Beckenbauer? So again, which footballing icon currently owns an 82% share of Valladolid? Is it Figo, Ronaldo the First, David Villa, or Franz Beckenbauer?
The first, like he's part of a royal family. He's the first.
Who's the third Ronaldo coming up? That's the question.
Yeah. It's a tough nut to crack now. If there is some kid who's, maybe 12, 13 years old with lots of potential, someone advise him against it. I mean, it's
a heavy crown. Weird. Is anyone out there? All right. I think somebody else has lost power. Still here. Looks like Mike has lost power. Not ideal. We're going to continue, folks. We've got 3 more questions to get through here. Next up, which Sevilla player made a key save? And again, remember, we said pay attention earlier in the show. Which Sevilla player made a key save against Eibar in the 99th minute this past match day? Was it A, Ever Banega, B, Thomas Vatslik, C, Lucas Ocampos, or D, club legend Sergio Escudero? So again, which Sevilla player made a key save against Eibar in the 99th minute this past match day? Was it Ever Banega, Thomas Vatslik, Lucas Ocampos, or Sergio Escudero? All right, get your answers in, folks, in the chat on Zoom as well as on the Facebook Live. Again, we'll be tallying this up, and a winner will be drawn later tonight for an Atletico Madrid jersey, official and provided by our friends at La Liga. 2 questions to go. Number 9, Which Spanish autonomous region was Ben Fisk based in when he played for Corucho? So again, which Spanish autonomous region, that's like a province for those Canadians watching, was Ben Fisk based in when he played for Corucho? Was it A, Basque Country, B, Asturias, C, Galicia, or D, Extremadura? So again, which Spanish region was Ben Fisk based in when he played for Corucho? The answer is one of Basque Country, Asturias, Galicia, or Extremadura. Get your answers in the chat. And lastly, final question. Which team has nearly clinched promotion to La Liga for the first time since 2005-2006? Is it A, Elche, B, Fuenlabrada, C, Mirandés, or D, Cádiz? Again, which team has nearly clinched promotion to La Liga for the first time since being relegated in 2006? The options are Elche, Fuenlabrada, Mirandés, and Cádiz. Get your answers in. This team is leading by 8 points with, I believe, 3 or 4 match days remaining. So they're just about clinched the league title and automatic promotion. Well, folks, unfortunately, it does look like we lost my valiant co-host, Mike DeLuca. But again, thanks so much for joining us. This has been another episode of Footy Talks La Liga. We had a great time with Rahul Kalvapalle and Mike Miller, of course, representing Real Madrid and Barça Peñas, respectively. And of course, Ben Fisk from Atletico Ottawa as they move closer to starting. Looks like Mike has actually popped back in. Mike, is the house okay? The lightning didn't hit too close?
Yeah, the house is just about okay, but it was like a scene from a film. All of a sudden, we're having great conversation about trivia, and no word of a lie, a bolt of lightning is outside the window, and all of a sudden my screen's down, the light went out, and so my bigger apology is for whatever ugly frozen phase version of me you got. For those who are watching, I am so sorry, because I'm sure it wasn't pretty. I didn't have time to pose or anything.
Awesome. Well, I was just wrapping up, Mike. And again, folks, join us next time for our big season-end trivia event. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're looking forward to it. All kinds of great La Liga content. And I'm sure, Mike, we'll probably mix in a little bit of Portuguese content if I had to take a wild guess.